Hi there and welcome. My name's Andrew and I'm a media composer based in Cambridge, UK. And today I'm going to go through a production music track of mine called Planting Out, which was produced for a music library for an album designed for gardening programs, home, DIY type things. So think digging in the garden, digging out weeds, that sort of thing as you're listening to it. I wanted to go through the aspects of the track that make it licensable, so why it's likely to be sort of chosen by an editor and put underneath a TV show, what the musical sort of points are that a music library is looking for when they're assessing your track, and so just some general pointers on how to produce a strong and usable production library music track. Okay, so here we go. So here we go, this is Planting Out, and first of all I'm just going to play from the beginning and let's just have a look at the structure and how this builds, because that's probably one of the most important things. So little introduction, and the first thing to notice, I think, so all the intros in green, I always tend to do shape things like this. Actually, it's probably worth just looking at the whole thing here, because I've essentially got three sections. I'm using my marker track up here, and I'm always aiming for about 2 to 2.5 minutes. So I always start off by putting in the 2-minute marker up here. Broadly speaking, and this is a fairly classic production music structure, I'm using a 3-part structure. Essentially, I've got a little introduction here, which is the green. It builds to get a little bit bigger, which is the orange section here. There's a breakdown here, and then the red section here is the same sort of thing, but bigger still. And then an outro, which is just to sort of finish off. It's worth saying that it's really, really important. We'll get to it in a minute, but the outro isn't a fade. It's an actual proper finishing. There's always a finishing spot for editors to use rather than fade out. And so sort of thinking in chunks, really. If we have a look at this little intro, for example, you could use this and just loop it sort of round and round and round and round. That's in the wrong place, and you can sort of imagine that as an underbed. There's always going to be something going on top of this. It's fairly transparent. You can have talking over the top, you can have action over the top. It's fairly innocuous. It's not overly melodic. There's nothing really catching your attention. It's a sort of underbed. But having said that, if you look every 4 bars, there's something changing every 4 bars. It's building. So the first 4 bars, we've just got the strings and the guitar. Second 4 bars, adding the bass guitar and a little bit of pizzicato. Next 4 bars, there's some spiccato strings here. And then the last 4 bars, there's some lower strings here. So the whole thing builds up to this bit here. And it could be a standalone, as I said, on its own, or it works quite well as a sort of lead into the next section. Now, the next section, I'm not going to change anything. I'm going to use the same sort of stuff, but develop on it and build it a little bit further. So we've got the same thing, but with the addition of these pizzicato strings here. I added a shaker as well. So it's the same thing. Again, it's building though. So this time we've got a change every 4 bars. This is new, the pizzicato, the high pizzicato thing. After 4 bars, we've got the shaker in. After 8 bars, we've got these long legato strings in as well. And again, that's building to what will become the breakdown. So after that. So again, that whole section could loop if the editor wanted something a bit sort of bigger underneath. That would loop cuttable. It's easily edited, easily chop and changeable. The editor, for example, could have that first section followed by the second section and go back to the first section if they wanted to. It's perfectly, it work depending on what the picture is. So that's really common. Two sections starting off, a little bit of a break, and then a breakdown, which is going to be much, much lighter and much, much softer. So I've kept the melody going here in the pizzicato. What have I done? I've put the spiccato an octave higher than it was, I think, before. So it was down here. Da, 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 and I've just put it an octave higher. Find the beginning of it there. So it's just a little bit higher, so it's all a little bit lighter. Again, this could loop round quite happily. When it goes. And then it doesn't loop. So I've introduced something new. This is building, and we're sort of building towards the end now, and I've put a kick drum in here just to give it some extra energy, and also some longer low strings now as it builds towards the end. Here I've just added a legato violin line here, so we've got the same thing. You can see how it's changing all the time. We've got the first 4 bars here, shaker added in here, this is new here, shaker added in here we get the tune in the next 4 bars we get this legato. So there's always something developing and building. And ending with something, so not fading out. There needs to be an end point. It's really, really important. And that's sort of playable on its own, I suppose, isn't it? That's like a little sting on its own almost. It's not the greatest ending. It's a bit empty there. It could sort of lead up to that last pizzicato a bit more maybe. So structurally, that's how it works. Thinking in blocks so that it will cut and an editor can chop and change it and, loop bits around and do all sorts of things to just to make it as flexible as possible. Also, before this went to a library, it would be, I would send different versions of it. I may send a 30-second version, a 30-second version, sorry, a 60-second version, maybe a 15-second version, and maybe a little stinger on the end as well. Again, just for versatility. Also, this would work really, really well as sort of an underscore version. Some alt versions, I would get rid of the tune, so all the way through, have just like a little underscore, possibly. You can just go for that. Don't need anything much more than that as an underscore. Go for a bass guitar and guitar version. Let's see what's that might sound like. make another version. So alternative versions also are really, really important, and it's quick and easy to bounce those out by just taking instruments in and out. So the whole point is with this that you're producing sort of not just one track, but you're producing almost like a music kit that an editor can splice together, chop into bits, and making it as versatile as possible so that it can potentially fit under as many different types of usage as possible. A few things on instrumentation for this. There's no live instruments on this. It would be better with live guitar, though I do use this ample guitar, which I have to say I don't think sounds that bad, but I'm not a guitarist. So if it was a live guitar on here, it'd be a lot better. It's possible to add in some shifts, which I think adds to the realism of it. Whether they're in the right place or not, if you're a guitarist, you may well know. It gives an impression of a guitar. If it was a live guitar, that would be an awful lot better. Bass is bass as is. And then the strings, if you listen to the strings on their own, for a library track like this, which I write quite quickly, very often would just use, I'm using the ensemble patch from Albion, I think here, yeah, Albion Spiccato 1, all of these. I find Albion way too wet normally. I always use it, particularly for sort of TV work, for this sort of light, sort of backgroundy stuff, with the close mics high up and the tree mics down and everything else off. So it gives it a much drier sound. Otherwise, you get an awful lot of Air Lyndhurst in there, which is a bit too much. It's a bit too sort of symphonic sounding. So all of the strings have got that sort of all of those spiccato strings. It's quite dry, it's quite light considering the size that the Albion ensemble thing is. Pizzicatos, I'm going to guess that's Albion as well, though I don't always use it. Let's have a look. Yes, it is. Again, close mics on this. Just way too wet with the rest of it on and too big sounding. And then my legatos are probably CSS. Let's have a look. Yeah, Cinematic Studio strings. I really like that. They work really, really well. There's too much reverb on that for my liking at the moment. So it's really, really simple. There's not a lot in there. I would put live guitar in it, ideally. I would also get a couple of string players just to add some live spiccato on the top, or actually probably use, I've got Chris Hines solo strings, very, very bitey and very harsh, but they can add a really nice sort of little bitey bit on the top of those, which works really, really well. So I would do that to improve it further. Okay, hope that's been really useful. It'd be great if you could subscribe, leave me a comment, let me know what you think. Thanks then, bye-bye.